I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine you were living in 18th century France. And let's be honest, you pretty much won the lottery of life. You come from a good family, money isn't really an issue, and you hold a seat in the Royal Academy.
Which, for the time, is the absolute pinnacle. You're not just wealthy, you are sitting at the table with the most elite minds in Europe. It sounds like the perfect life.
On paper, it is perfect. You have status, you have security, you have intellect. But here's the catch. You aren't most people. You are consumed by an ambition that, it borders on a sickness. You don't just want to be smart. You want to solve one of the greatest mysteries of the universe. You want to measure the exact distance from the Earth to the sun.
And we have to contextualize this. In the 1760s, this wasn't just some math problem. This was the holy grail of astronomy. This is the astronomical unit. If you have that number, you unlock the scale of the entire solar system.
Exactly. It's the key to the whole map.
Yeah.
But to get that number, you couldn't just, look through a telescope on a random Tuesday in Paris.
Yeah.
You needed a very specific event. You needed the transit of Venus.
Right. This is when Venus passes directly between the Earth and the Sun. It looks like a tiny black dot crawling across the solar surface. But here is the kicker, and this is where the pressure really starts to mount. This event is incredibly rare.
How rare are we talking?
It happens in pairs, 8 years apart. But those pairs only happen roughly once every 125 years.
So if you miss that window,
You are done. You simply will not live to see the next one. Just to put this in perspective for you, the next transits aren't happening until December 2117 and December 2125.
wow. So literally no one listening to this deep dive right now will be alive to see them.
Exactly. So back in 1760, for our protagonist, a man named Guillaume Le Gentil, the stakes were absolute. It was literally now or never.
So today we are unpacking the story of Guillaume Le Gentil. It is a story of a nightmare voyage, sure, but we're really using it as a case study in the price of extreme ambition. We're going to look at his journey, but mainly use it to answer a bigger, more modern question. Why do high achievers so often end up with no friends?
It's a question that hits hard. We're going to explore the psychology behind this isolation, looking at research from, say, the Harvard study of adult development, theories on the one-dimensional nature of success, and the 5 types of solitude. We want to figure out, is being alone a superpower for success, or is it actually a slow death?
Let's get into the story first because nightmare feels like an understatement here. It's March 1760. Le Gentil leaves the comforts of France. He's part of this massive global effort where scientists scattered across the Earth to time this transit. He sets sail for Pondicherry, India.
And remember, this is not a flight to Mumbai. This is a brutal journey by sea. You're dealing with scurvy, storms, bad food. It takes over a year just to get to the region.
But by the time his ship reaches Mauritius, he gets devastating news. War has broken out between France and Britain. The path to India is blocked. Now, I feel like a normal person, someone who values their safety and sanity, probably turns back here. You say, well, I tried, there's a war, I'm going home.
A rational person does that, yes. But Le Gentil doubles down. This is that sickness of ambition we mentioned. He switches to a different ship, absolutely desperate to reach his observation point. He spends months getting tossed around by monsoon storms. His body is failing him. Dysentery is rampant. But his mind is just locked on this one goal.
It's that tunnel vision. Everything else, health, safety, it all becomes background noise. Finally, he approaches Pondicherry. He's made it. But then he looks through the spyglass and sees the British flag flying. They've seized the territory. His ship can't land.
So he's just floating off the coast.
Stuck on the ocean. And then the moment of truth arrives. June 6th, 1761, the day of the transit. The sky is perfectly clear. It's a beautiful day. He has traveled thousands of miles for this. He has all his instruments ready.
He's on a swaying ship.
Exactly. You can't do precision astronomy on a rolling deck. He tries, but he can't get a steady reading. His measurements are useless. A decade of planning, a year of hellish travel, all wasted.
That is a crushing blow. Most people would go home and admit defeat right there.
But this is where the story pivots from unlucky to obsessive. He doesn't go home. He remembers what you said earlier. There's a second transit 8 years later. So he decides, I'm already here, I'll just wait.
Wait. He decides to wait 8 years
Well,
in a foreign region.
8 years. He effectively pauses his entire life in France. He decides that the data point is worth more than a decade of his actual life.
That is profound isolation.
It is. He spends those gap years traveling around the Indian Ocean, mapping currents, dodging authorities. He tries to set up in the Philippines, but the Spanish think he's a spy and they kick him out. He is completely untethered from his real life.
He's becoming a drifter, existing purely for the sake of this one scientific goal.
He eventually makes it back to Pondicherry. It's now June 4th, 1769. This is it, the last chance. He wakes up, sets up his telescopes, his charts, his compasses. Everything is ready. The sun starts to rise. And then,
Oh no. Don't tell.
as the transit begins, the sky fills with thick, heavy clouds. A storm rolls in. He sees nothing.
That is just heartbreaking.
9 years of his life sacrificed for a blank sheet of paper.
It's devastating, and it really highlights the fragility of pinning your entire existence on one single external event.
And the hicks just keep coming. He finally returns to France. That journey takes another year and a half, so total time away. 11 years. He knocks on his front door, probably imagining a warm welcome, a hot meal. But he walks into a nightmare. Because the war had cut off his letters, no one had heard from him in years. He had been legally declared dead.
Oh, wow.
His seat at the Royal Academy, filled by someone else, his relative. They had already divided up his property. And the most brutal blow of all, his wife had remarried.
That is the ultimate cost.
It is the true story of Guillaume Le Gentil, and I think it's the perfect, if extreme, example of what happens when a singular goal effectively deletes the rest of your life.
It connects to a broader theme we see in history. I mean, think of Nikola Tesla, arguably one of the most brilliant minds to ever walk the earth. He gave us the modern world, essentially AC electricity, radio technology, yet he died alone in a hotel room, penniless and forgotten.
It seems like there is a pattern here. High achievement often correlates with high isolation.
It does, and before we judge Le Gentil or anyone who finds themselves isolated, we have to understand the payment required for extreme success. There's a specific trade-off that the research really highlights.
So what does this trade-off look like? Is it inevitable?
Well, the sources point to a theory often discussed by people like Jordan Peterson. The idea is that if you want to be truly exceptional in a narrow field, you have to be one-dimensional. To beat world-class competition, you just can't be well-rounded. You have to be in the lab or the office while everyone else is at a birthday party or a movie.
You're talking about those 70, 80, 100-hour weeks.
Exactly. You pour every single ounce of your cognitive energy into one thing. The price of being a genius-level scientist or a top-tier athlete is that you miss the rest of life. If you want to be a 1% outlier in your field, you usually have to accept being a 0% failure in others.
That's a stark way to put it. A 0% failure in other areas. It feels like a deal with the devil.
In a way, it is. And the source material highlights an interesting gender difference here as well, regarding how this ambition plays out.
Oh, really? What did the findings say?
They suggest that many ambitious men, historically and statistically, tend to follow this 150% career path. They focus entirely on the work, and as a result, their social life and family life often wither away. It's that tunnel vision we saw with Le Gentil.
Because there's just no time left.
Yeah.
It's simple math. You can't be in the lab for 16 hours and also be at the dinner table.
Right. Whereas the sources suggest that women, conversely, often seek wholeness. The goal is often to be, say, 80% successful across 5 or 6 different areas: career, family, health, social connection, hobbies. There's often less willingness to sacrifice everything for a single dimension.
That makes sense. It's the difference between being a spike in one area that is extreme outlier status and a plateau across many. But here is the big question I have. Is that isolation actually good? I mean, we romanticize the solitary genius, the monk in the tower, but is it healthy?
To answer that, we have to look at the Harvard study of adult development. This is the longest-running study on human happiness ever conducted. They've been tracking 724 men for over 75 years.
75 years. That is incredible data consistency. Usually studies last, what, a few months?
Exactly. And they didn't just send out questionnaires. They did in-depth interviews, took blood samples, scanned brains. They wanted to know what actually makes a human being healthy and happy over the long haul.
And the verdict?
Undeniable. The people who were the happiest and healthiest were those who had warm, reliable relationships. Friends, family, community. Social connection literally keeps us alive longer. Loneliness, on the other hand, is toxic. The study found it kills, and it leads to earlier brain decline.
So Le Gentil's ambition might have been impressive, but his isolation was likely killing him.
Physically and emotionally, yes. The cortisol levels, the inflammation, loneliness attacks the body just as much as smoking or obesity. It's not just a feeling, it's a biological stressor.
Okay, so this brings us to the listener. If you're listening to this and thinking, I don't have any friends or I'm working too hard, does that mean you're in trouble?
Not necessarily. This is where we need to be nuanced. The source material breaks down 5 distinct cases of solitude. It's a spectrum. They aren't all red flags.
Let's run through these so people can self-diagnose.
Yeah.
Because I think people often conflate being alone with being lonely, and they aren't the same thing at all.
Exactly. Case number 1 is what they call chosen solitude.
Okay, paint the picture for us.
Imagine it's Sunday. Your phone is on silent. You're in your room. Maybe some music is playing, cup of tea, and you are working on a project that genuinely excites you. You aren't checking Instagram to see what you're missing. You are fully present.
That sounds lovely, actually. That's my ideal Sunday.
And that's the point. You don't feel like you're missing out. You feel clear and focused. Researchers found that people in this category are actually quite happy. They value their goals more than casual hanging out. If this is you, your lack of a massive friend group isn't a problem. It's a strategy.
So that's the good kind. You're alone on purpose. What about case 2? They call this weak ties.
This is where you might say, I don't have friends, but you still interact with the world. You smile at the security guard, you chat with the person at the gym, maybe you joke with a colleague in the break room about the coffee.
So surface level stuff, does that actually count as social interaction?
Surprisingly, yes. Think of it like social nutrition. You don't have anyone to call at 2 a.m. in a crisis, which is a risk, admittedly, but you aren't emotionally starving. You get enough interaction to keep going. It's a low-maintenance social life, not a major red flag, just light.
All right, now we're getting into the riskier territory. Case 3, career tunnel vision.
These are the 70-hour-a-week people. The mindset is, I'll hustle now and socialize later. It's deferred living.
The grind set. We see this all over social media. Sleep when you're dead.
Exactly. They aren't antisocial, they're over-optimized. Look at someone like Demis Hassabis, the CEO of DeepMind. He admitted to working 100-hour weeks for years to crack artificial intelligence. But, and this is key, he seemed happy because he loved the work.
But there's a catch, right? You can't just run an engine at redline forever.
The catch is burnout. You can only run that hard for so long. If you're working those hours and feeling stressed, the lack of friends becomes a dangerous health risk. You have to consciously carve out time to be human, or your body will force you to stop.
Okay, case 4. This one hits home for a lot of people, I think. It's called lonely in a crowd.
This is where the real danger starts. You go to the meetings, you're at the birthday parties, you're active in the group chats, but nobody is really listening.
Oh, that feeling.
Yeah.
You share something good and just get a generic emoji? Or you try to talk about something real and people just gloss over it?
Precisely. Zero deep connection. You are surrounded by people, but completely isolated. And the source makes a great point here. You can't fix this by meeting more people. You can't fix this by going to more parties. You fix it by building vulnerability with the people already there.
That's a key distinction. It's about depth, not width. You don't need a bigger network. You need a deeper one. And finally, case 5, painful loneliness.
This is the most difficult state. No friends. You scroll social media, see everyone else together, and your mood just crashes. When something bad happens, you carry the entire weight alone.
That sounds incredibly heavy.
It is. It's high stress and high health risk. This is where the Harvard study's warnings really apply. The solution here isn't just waiting for a friend to appear. You have to use structured communities, classes, sports clubs, volunteering.
So forced proximity, effectively.
Exactly. Places where interaction is forced and repeated over time. It's really the only way to break the cycle because it removes the pressure of having to be charming instantly. You just show up to the pottery class or the run club every week and bonds form naturally.
So what does this all mean for the ambitious person? If you want to be the next Michael Jordan or Warren Buffett, or you want to discover the next astronomical unit like Le Gentil, do you just have to accept being alone? Is it binary?
To an extent, yes. Being an outlier requires sacrifice. But there is a hack that many successful people use to avoid the Le Gentil fate.
A hack. I'm listening.
They merge their worlds.
What does that mean?
It means their life partner is often just as ambitious or works alongside them. They engage in what's sometimes called parallel play.
Like toddlers.
In a way. But for adults, they might spend the whole day in the same room working on completely different things, barely speaking. But the mere presence of the other person satisfies that need for connection. The relationship becomes part of the mission, not a distraction from it.
I love that. It's not about choosing between work and love. It's about aligning them.
Exactly. And this leads to a really profound point from Naval Ravikant. He said the real test of intelligence is, can you get what you want?
Can you get what you want? That sounds simple.
It sounds simple, but it's tricky. Most people focus on the get part, the hustle, the strategy, the execution, but the hardest part is actually the want part, knowing what you actually want.
That's deep, because Le Gentil knew what he wanted, the number. He wanted the astronomical unit. But he didn't realize the price was his entire life.
Precisely. He wanted the data. But did he want the divorce? Did he want the isolation? Did he want to be legally dead in France? Probably not. You have to ask yourself, do you want the world-changing discoveries at the cost of your family? Or do you want warm relationships at the cost of being a normal achiever?
It's a brutal question. It forces you to look in the mirror.
It is. But if you decide you want both, you have to master your time. Use the Pareto principle. Ensure that 20% of your social effort yields 80% of your emotional fulfillment.
So you don't need 100 friends.
No. You might just need 1 or 2 deep connections and a partner who understands the grind. That can be enough to protect your health while you chase the goal. You don't need to be the life of the party. You just need to be tethered to humanity.
That seems much more manageable. It really comes down to intention.
That's the final takeaway. Whether you have 0 friends or 1,000, the only metric that really matters is your social state a choice or a cage?
A choice or a cage. I like that.
If you are alone because you are building something great, that is powerful. That is a choice. That is Le Gentil in the first few years, driven by passion. But if you are alone and miserable, that is a cage and you need community.
It's about agency.
Always know what you want, understand the price, and pay it willingly. Don't just drift into isolation like Le Gentil did. Choose it, or choose to fix it.
That is a lot to think about, from 18th century French astronomy to modern psychological strategy. Thank you so much for breaking this down with us.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening, take a look at your own social map. Are you in case 1, enjoying your solitude? Or case 4, lonely in a crowd? The answer might change how you spend your next Sunday. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.